Hello and welcome to On the Preds with me, your host, Alex Doherty of A to Z Sports and Sean Smith of On the Forecheck. We are here to recap the Preds week and talk hockey, maybe complain a little bit, maybe rant, but also put things into perspective as the Predators are 4-4 on the season. Nice 500 record to start 8 games in. We'll talk a lot about that. But welcome in, Sean. It's Halloween. Did you see the Halloween decorations I put up?
I see the Halloween decorations. They're a little bit spooky. I'll do my best to not get too scared.
I had to do something. I wasn't prepared. I kind of was in a rush putting the graphic together this morning, so I needed to put something on there. But got some Halloween decorations. Of course, you should be watching this on YouTube because we have a video component to this show now. If you remember last year, we were just audio. Now we're audio and video, and Sean has joined us for this season. So YouTube obviously is a way to watch it, but you can also listen to us on SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, on the A to Z Sports Podcast Network. So check us out all those places. Well, let's see. We have a lot to recap because if anybody who doesn't know, we skipped last week because I got COVID. That sucked. It was not fun, but I just could not record while sick, so I couldn't do it. I didn't want to get Sean virtually sick by recording.
No.
I anticipate that no one missed us too badly, but anyways, we're back. So did you enjoy having a week to yourself, so you didn't have to worry about recording a show, or were you disappointed?
It's funny. I'm amongst the people a lot. I hear the words on the streets, and the kids are all like, "Sean, where's on the Preds? What happened?
Yeah.
Are you guys leaving? You going big time?" And I was like, "Guys, just give it a week. It'll be back." And so, I would have enjoyed it if I didn't have to spend the vast majority of the off time just explaining to everybody what happened. So, my outreach efforts, I think, worked. I think people will be ready today to pay attention and listen or watch and see what's going on. So,
there's been a lot going on with the Predators, and I mean, there's the week that we missed, and we'll talk about that in a second. The week that we missed, the Predators were very much not good, and then they kind of have been better in these last few games. So that's kind of interesting. It's been a strange couple weeks, but obviously it's so early. It's difficult to really notice any trends. But we're going to try. We're going to talk about a few trends. We're going to talk about some things that have happened. Take a look at some video clips of some pretty neat moments that happened so far in the last week or so. And let's go ahead and get to it. So let's talk recaps. So we missed a week because I got COVID, but just very briefly last week, so not this past week, but the week before that, the Predators beat the Kings when Victor Arvidsson came back to Bridgestone Arena, and then they lost to the Rangers and the Jets in some pretty bad performances there. So that takes us to this past week where first with the Minnesota Wild on Sunday night. So the Preds power play in that game was on fire to start. They got up 2-0 on 2 power play goals from Roman Josi and Ryan Johansen. Johansen would then add another goal in the first. Predators were up 3-0 after one period. Big start there. And then it seemed like every time in that game the Wild fought back in the game, the Predators countered with an attack of their own. Forsberg and Genoa would add 2 more goals. But the biggest story in that game had to be the NHL debut of Connor Ingram, a goaltending prospect that the Predators just stole from the Tampa Bay Lightning for a 7th-round pick a couple years ago. And David Riddick, who was on the COVID protocol list, couldn't go. So Connor Ingram steps in, gets his first NHL start and his first NHL victory. He had 33 saves in that game. Huge moment for him. 5-2 was the final over Minnesota. Up next, unless you want to say anything about that real quick. That was a neat moment, I thought.
I thought it was a great moment. I'll tell you, I think I started paying attention to Ingram not when he was drafted or anything, but when that trade did happen. So I think, kind of seeing the progression, and if you pay attention to the Predators beyond what's happening at the NHL level, I mean, he was enjoying kind of a meteoric rise where he had been an AHL All-Star when he was with the Lightning organization, and then he
pretty highly touted prospect. Yeah. I mean, he was not nothing, right?
No, and then for whatever reason, I don't want to speculate, but for whatever reason, the Lightning are willing to give him up for a 7th-round draft pick. He comes to the Predators organization, goes to Milwaukee, and he's an AHL All-Star goalie in Milwaukee. So it seemed like you're seeing this trajectory of he's going to be in the NHL soon. This is, the heir apparent to Yossi Saros's backup position when Saros takes over for Rinne. And then he entered into the Players Assistance Program wisely. And I think when that happens, your biggest concern is, are they going to be able to get the help they need? And then once they get that help they need, will they be able to come back and be a productive player in the NHL? Because certainly most important, get the help you need. That's what you want that program for. But then when you come back from that, can you continue what you were doing and, hopefully earn a bigger contract, play longer, make more money? And it seems like that was the best thing he could have done, in that he's come back on that same trajectory. And like you said, it's a surprise chance to get that NHL start because Riddick was in the COVID protocol, but he made the best out of his opportunity. And it was very, very nice story.
Very, very, it's a great moment. And I think there were a lot of people on Twitter and the internet just really giving him the praise he deserved, for, especially because of the going into the Players Assistance Program and coming out of that and being a better person for it. So excellent news. Connor Ingram gets his first win. And, you got to feel good about let's say David Riddick, who we're probably going to see this coming week at some point. Let's say David Riddick doesn't have a great, start to the season as backup to Yossi Saros. You know what you've got in Connor Ingram. You're going to get some solid minutes out of him, and I think he looked pretty good. He was kind of a very different goaltender from Saros and from Rinne, but I think you saw some good things there. Let's move on to the next game. That would be 2 days later. The Preds look to go streaking with the Sharks in their home barn. Matt Duchene gets another power play goal. That would be 3 in 2 games for the Preds. That's interesting. But he does it by firing a wrist shot as he enters the zone. Not usually how it's done, kind of a different looking power play goal. But the Predators can be picky in that because they just want to get as many power play goals as they can because it's usually at a premium. Then Philip Forsberg gets a goal in the second off of a very nice feed from Roman Josi. James Reimer gets a piece of it, but it goes in anyways. And then an empty netter from Mikhail Granlund, and the game would finish 3-1 final. Preds had a 2-game winning streak at that point. The Sharks, I don't think the Sharks are very good, but they're at least a competitive team in some respects. They got some good players. So the Predators get a 3-1 win. That was a nice defensive effort as well in Saros' start there. What do you think about that game, the Sharks game last Tuesday?
My big thing going into that game was getting to see Nick Bonino. I always enjoyed Nick Bonino in Nashville. Right. I think I was fairly outspoken his last year in Nashville at how much I loved and appreciated him. So not getting to see him for a year or for a season and then getting the chance, really kind of surprised. You realize lots changed in that year, and he's actually not with the Minnesota Wild anymore, but he's now with the Sharks. So I don't know. I didn't get to see as much of him as I wanted, but it was nice to see him before the game talking to a lot of the guys from the team. I was a little concerned when he first came to Nashville from Pittsburgh and they were going to face the Penguins for the first time with Bonino on the team. Somebody asked him, are you excited to go up against anybody? And he had made the comment that he was ready to get up in Phil Kessel's face. So I was curious if he had any bad blood with anybody on the Predators and was going to try to get after anybody, but it didn't seem like that happened. So that was, nice too.
He does not seem like a bad blood kind of guy. I mean, he really doesn't. Like, he seems like he has probably some competitive rivalries, right? With different players, maybe on the Predators or on the Penguins or on the Wild. I mean, he probably has that. But yeah, I doubt that. Yeah, Nick Bonino's a great dude. Yeah. The Predators in that game, I think, were like shockingly good. Like they were a pretty solid team. That's kind of where you start to see this week really kind of hit its stride, where the Predators have won 3 straight games. And it coincides with something that we'll talk about in a little bit, where John Hynes kind of doing some line shuffling, which I think is interesting. And we'll talk about that in a minute, especially especially with the top forwards, moving Duchesne and Forsberg with Granlund, and then moving Johansen around. We'll talk about that as well. But yeah, nice win getting the home win over the Sharks in that game. And then on Saturday, so this is yesterday now, the Predators welcome back Barry Trotz again. The Islanders are in town, and anytime the New York Islanders are in town, anytime Barry Trotz is in town, it's a big moment because of how big of an impact he had on Nashville hockey history. The big name there. To start this game, Anthony Beauvillier, or as I call him, the beautiful villain, gets the Islanders on the board with a power play goal. Saros really never had a chance on that play. It was just really great passing from New York. I think he had to move laterally like 3 times before the play to get over there. Just a great play from them. But then after that, it would be the Tanner Jeannot show. He gets his first goal on a rush shot from the wing that skips off of Sorokin's stick, and it goes in. It was a very strange looking goal because it kind of went off of Sorokin's stick and then underneath his arm. Very strange goal. Tie game, 1-1. Then Oliver Wahlstrom, who's been very good for the Islanders as well, he puts the Islanders up 5 minutes later on the power play. So the penalty kill gives up another goal. Another shot that really Saros couldn't do much. There's too much time. So it's 2-1. But then in the third period, with the Predators really pressing in the offensive zone, Matt Benning comes on the ice, gets the puck on the right side. He's looking to shoot. He's looking. He fires it on net as he's on the red line. Terrible angle. And somehow the puck gets off of Tanner Jeannot's knee. It's not Tanner Jeannot. It's Tanner Jeannot. The puck goes in off of his knee to tie the game, just the way you draw it up. In overtime, the Predators had just this crazy sequence, which I had to go back and see how long they had it. They had the puck for almost 2 minutes in the overtime. I know that sounds like something that's pretty easy to do. It's only 3-on-3, but it really isn't. And they had a couple line changes in there. They had the puck possession for a very long time. And then in the shootout, Forsberg and Yossi score to win the game. Yossi Saros does not allow a goal, I don't think. Yeah, it was 2-0. They beat him in the shootout. 3-2 is the final. The Predators have a 3-game winning streak. I know you were there on Saturday. I'm still not allowed to go to games because I got COVID. That'll be changing soon. But how was that atmosphere? What was that like with the Predators winning their 3rd straight game on Saturday?
It was a really good atmosphere. I think it turned into be a long day of hockey for me, as it was the 12:30 game, very early start, and that was to accommodate the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame game that took place at 7:00 Saturday night against it was University of North Dakota and Penn State. So you had it was interesting because, of course, the Islanders always bring a lot of fans, but it was surprising because while you saw a lot of Islanders fans, you also saw a lot of North Dakota green. And so you had this really big group of people that was just kind of there to see hockey and then show up for their team's hockey game later. But the stadium the arena had a lot of people in it. It was good and loud. And I'll say, you can say what you want about, that bad angle shot by Benning and it popping off of Tanner Jeannot's knee, but that brought a lot of energy to that building right when they really needed it, and was able to give that team the push they needed in overtime, at least to keep the other team from scoring. And I'll say those 2 goalies, both teams, you weren't going to get anything past them without some kind of trick. I mean, it was really impressive. That whole first Jeannot goal was really what made that happen, was a Yakov Trenin jump screen, Victor Arvidsson style. And I think that's something that really, didn't really get heralded much. At least I didn't see the TV broadcast, but it was really surprising to see that large of a man get up in front and do that jump and see that just take away the goalie's eyes, watch it go in. And so I knew going into the shootout that it was going to be really, not going to be a lot of fun for either team, because both goalies, without having somebody in front of them or getting a redirect or some kind of odd bounce off a stick, it wasn't going to go in. The Predators were able to pull it off. It was a great win. It was a lot of energy for 3 p.m.
Yeah. Well, that actually takes us right into what I wanted to talk about first, and that would be Tanner Jeannot. So it's pretty interesting how this has turned out, because Tanner Jeannot comes to the Predators 3 years ago as an undrafted free agent. They signed him as an undrafted free agent out of the WHL, playing for the Moose Jaw Warriors. He's a big dude, and he's got some skill, but the most important thing is he's big. So that is exactly why the Predators signed him. They like signing bigger guys to try to stock their prospect with just bulk, with just big dudes. And he progresses into this, like, he has this physical element to his game, but he's also like, his vision is very, very good. He's almost like a really big, and his skill is underrated. He's almost like a bigger version, to me. He's a bigger version of Victor Arvidsson, who played with just a ton of energy at both ends, brought a lot of energy to the ice whenever he's out there. Except he's like 6'4", and Victor Arvidsson's not 6'4". So he's just like, he has this really interesting history with the Predators, undrafted, really no prospects at all to like make the team. And now the Predators protect him in the expansion draft to the surprise of some. I think some people were not surprised because of how big he was late last year. And now he's leading the team in scoring with 4 goals. I know it's only 4 goals. He's not going to lead the league or lead the team in goals at the end of the year, I don't think. But Tanner Jeannot is a great story, right? I mean, he's a lot of fun to watch, and you gotta appreciate a story like that. Undrafted to leading the team in goals, a week, a couple months or 1 month into the season.
I mean, he was undrafted at the junior level too, and I think that's what's most impressive is that every contract that he has, he's earned because he showed up and he played his rear end off. And when he showed up at the NHL level last season and really kind of put on a show, and I've said it before, I talked to Carl Taylor about him, and he said that there is nothing I could say positive about him that I couldn't put his name on. I couldn't quote him on. You can make up anything you want, say I said it, as long as it's positive. So I couldn't say anything bad about him. Said he's the hardest working kid he's ever worked with. And, there's this element to him, even if you look at the post-game interview from yesterday. He had a great game. He had to know on some level that he was the spark plug that got that game going and that pushed that game into overtime, even if he didn't score, even if he didn't participate in the shootout. And when he's asked about, the game, he's like, I always try to learn from my mistakes. It's just a very, very wholesome story and seems like an absolutely incredible guy. But at the same time, he's huge and he will hurt you. He may not have to drop the gloves to do it, but he's knocking guys over, slamming them into the board. I mean, it's a hard play to play against him, but he can also finish. And that's really what you want, isn't it?
Tanner Jeannot is from Oxbow, which is a town in Saskatchewan province.
Mm-hmm.
Any guesses on how many people do you think live in Oxbow? What's the looking at the 2016 census, how many people live in Oxbow, you think?
1,500.
Holy crap, you are so close. You almost nailed it. 1,300, 1,328.
Okay. I figured it was nice. Probably close to my hometown in Kentucky, which has like 14, 50.
I don't know that I would have even come close to that. I'm really bad at guessing that kind of thing. But well done. 1,300 people live in Oxbow, and one of them was Tanner Jeannot, and he is now leading in scoring on the Predators. That's a pretty cool story. So yeah, there you go. I think he's an awesome part of this season. I also wanted to talk about Roman Josi. And before I do this, I want to show this goal here. So from time to time, we will share some video. This actually is a Philip Forsberg goal, but there's a reason I'm showing this to talk about Roman Josi. And let's go ahead and show this now. This is from the Minnesota Wild game. Is that right? I can't even remember. I think it's from the Wild game. But this is a great goal by the Predators in that win on Sunday.
On display, we saw it in the first period off a face-off, but watch Roman Josi. He hesitates, waits till Forsberg gets in an open position. Burns almost gets a piece of that, but because Philip Forsberg crosses the middle of the ice here, he makes James Reimer move and be in an off.
Yeah, that's the Minnesota Wild playing in their San Jose Sharks alternate jerseys right there. obviously, I was wrong. It's not the Minnesota Wild game. It was the Sharks game on Tuesday.
It's
Anyways,
okay.
It's been a long week for me, folks. So the keys to that. So Philip Forsberg comes to the middle of the ice and gets a nice shot off and gets it by James Reimer. But the real key to that play and the plays, the kind of the play that cycled up to that is the play of Roman Josi. If you watch the Predators with Roman Josi on the ice, he is so clearly the best player on the ice for the Predators. His vision is incredible. His skating is just no one matches his skating, and his puck skills are great. For him to be able to skate basically circles around the San Jose Sharks and then find Philip Forsberg on that crisp pass right in the middle of the ice, exactly at the exact time that Philip Forsberg needed to get the puck, when he's coming to the middle and has an angle to shoot, is just incredible. Roman Josi is playing as good as he ever has. I think he's got to be one of the front runners for the Norris Trophy this year already. He's got, I know he's leading the team in scoring right now, not in goals, but in just overall scoring. He's an incredible talent, and it's really fun to watch him play every night. I think he's the best player on the ice for the Predators right now. What do you think?
Oh, every night, every afternoon. And what's funny, you talk about that crisp cross ice pass. That's something that I've been harping on a lot this season. Is that the north-south passing looks great, but they have a really hard time getting the puck across the ice without somebody getting a stick on it or without it getting to where it needs to go. So to see that happening, and it's usually from Yossi who's making that happen. It happens every game, and that's the kind of thing is you can show that highlight, and you're like, well, look at this nice thing, but that's something you could show that kind of highlight from every single game. He's always doing something like that, and even in the shootout yesterday, what I think was really, really surprising is if you watch the way a lot of the guys in the shootout approach the goalie with the puck, they're trying to do a lot of things to really slight things or changing angles on their stick blade just to try to get the goalie to bite one way or the other. And Yossi came in so smooth, it was almost like, I don't know, it was almost like he was daring the goalie to make a move because he was waiting for the goalie to bite on anything. He wasn't giving anything away. And just that sense of, I don't have to come at you at a frenzied pace. I don't have to do a bunch of things to throw you off. I'm just going to come at you real slow and smooth with this puck. I'm not going to give anything away, and I'm going to light you up. And that, to me, that shows that greater command and control on the ice that we're talking about. It's not a, it's a fast and furious all the time. There's a lot of calculation involved. And that's one of the things I can appreciate about his play, especially this season, is a lot of times that calming presence kind of gets guys to realize, hey, Yossi's here. He's got it under control. He's going to take care of us. And that's what happens.
Yeah, he is a source of comfort and control for everyone else on the team because of how good he is. I shudder to think about what this Predators team would even look like if they didn't have him in the lineup. I mean, it would be pretty bad. You feel pretty comfortable that Mattias Ekholm could lead the team from the blue line, but not in the same way that Roman Josi does. I mean, he's just a different player. Yeah. And the lateral passing, the cross ice passing is so important. I mean, if you watch any of the really good teams in the NHL, Colorado Avalanche do it extremely well. Sometimes the Maple Leafs do it well, not all the time. If the Blues do it okay, they play more of a defensive heavy game. Vegas does it really well. All this lateral ice passing, like gaining the zone and being able to connect passes through the middle of the ice, through the Royal Road, as they call it. That is how goals happen. That's how you get scoring. That's how scoring happens more often than not. Yeah. And the Predators have been struggling with that forever. They've been struggling with it on the power play at even strength. And so the only way for them to really generate any scoring is through cycling around the outside, hard work on the boards, and then just trying to get an angle that works. But you're not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to do that without some accurate cross ice passing. It's so true, and it's something that they've been struggling with forever. But you have seen a little bit more of it recently, and they're trying to make it work. Ever since John Hines got here, they're opting for quality over quantity. Yeah. With Bobby Lett, it was about just volume, just launch everything on net, get 50 shots on goal. every night and not a lot of quality. Now it's kind of the opposite. They're going for just cycle, and then try to get as best a shot as you can possibly get. So that's what we're seeing. And, it makes for some frustrating hockey at times because you don't see a ton of shots and you don't see a lot of quality because you don't see they're not good at it yet. But that's what we're looking at. So.
Well, it's night and day from Laviolette. Like you said, Laviolette's big thing was volume shooting, shoot the puck from the blue line, make a rebound happen, pick up the scraps. And yeah. I think that's what makes it so frustrating for fans, at least, is that it is such a stark contrast. But I'll tell you, I think, if you look back at the Winnipeg game, what Winnipeg did that I think was really successful against the team was they took away the middle of the ice in the offensive zone, and they forced them to play that around the boards and back at the blue line style game. No matter when they had the puck, if they were in the offensive zone, the Preds weren't getting up close. And I think you saw a big change in the way they played in the very next game, where they focused on getting in front of the net and making sure they asserted their dominance right in the middle of that ice. And that's kind of the style they've been playing. And if you look at the goals that have come about, thinking specifically about the one we just watched, but both of the goals from Saturday's game, those happened because people were going to the net. Trennan getting that screen on Genoa in the first, and then Jeannot getting in front, really standing at the goal line while Benning fired from the goal line and redirecting that puck into the net. And that's good things happen when you go to the front of the net. So, you can't get to the front of the net very easily without passing across the ice. So that's, again, it's got to be something they're working on consistently, and I think it's starting to pay off. I think you'll see it continue to improve. Yeah,
it definitely started to pay off. They need to get more production, and they need to get more production out of key forwards. Now, I know that at some point we want to talk about Yossi Saros, but before we do that, let's take a turn and talk about specifically some of the lineup changes that John Hynes has made, and one of which impacts one of the more important forwards on the team, Ryan Johansen. I want to show one clip of him scoring a goal here. But maybe before we do that, Ryan Johansen has been moved around a little bit, and it's kind of interesting. So at the beginning of the season, we saw Johansen with Forsberg and Duchesne. Forsberg, Duchesne, Johansen, the $24 million line or whatever it is. And they were very good, but then he changed it when things were not producing as well, and now it's Forsberg, Duchesne, and Granlund, which, by the way, is also a line that really works well. And then Johansen has moved around and had a couple of rotating winger combinations. He's been with Tolvanen and Cunnin. He's been with Tomasino and Cousins. He's been, and I think he's kind of balanced both of those combinations well. And then the other option that's played with the other center that's played with the other pair is Tommy Novak, who kind of came out of nowhere. And I did not see Tommy Novak contributing to this team this year. But he's there and he's doing okay. He's not great. He's not terrible, I guess. But the Johansen thing is pretty interesting. So I want to show this goal. I can't remember. Yeah, this is a power play goal, so it's a little bit different. But this is, I think, a good example of Ryan Johansen's skill set and what he is able to do well and what people want to see more of. So let's look at this goal, this power play goal right here.
Wall, he comes up, then comes back down south. Johansen presents the stick, and it's just a high tip. He follows it up. Matt Dumba doesn't get that stick, and Johansen does a good job battling through it. Checking and can't control the rebound. The Predators take 2-0 lead.
So the key thing about that goal to me and what it says about Ryan Johansen, what he's able to do, is kind of three things: positioning, size, and reach. If you speaking physically about Ryan Johansen, he has a physical size and reach that not a lot of other players do.
No.
Philip Forsberg has it. Ryan Johansen has it. But and maybe honestly, maybe Tanner Jeannot has it. He's pretty big. But it's about his reach and his vision to be able to get to pucks that no one else can get to, that you see on that goal. First of all, he's in the middle of the ice. now he's on the power play. He's kind of supposed to be there if he's not down low being a distributor. But he sees the puck. He's able to get around Matt Dumba, who's a good defender, and he's able to get his stick on a puck that maybe not a lot of people can get to because he's got a nice reach. That is so important, and it's something that I've noticed ever since Johansen got here. He has an ability to get to pucks that no one else can get to because he's just a big orangutan armed guy.
There you go.
And that is a big part of his game. And I think that Johansen's ability in that realm of the game is kind of unmatched on the Predators. If you took it away, I think you would be wondering where's our big men that can go get pucks that no one else can get. So to me, that is a good example of what Johansen can do that not a lot of people can do. Matt Duchene can't do that. Matt Duchene's more of a playmaker. He's better with the puck than without it. Most of the defensemen can't do that. I would say that, even someone like Tomasino, he's more of a Duchene mold, kind of a playmaker, kind of with the puck, playing with speed. No one does what Johansen does, in my opinion.
No, I think, what you said that made a lot of sense was, I think if you took that away, you would notice it.
Yes.
And I think that maybe is the thing that a lot of people, when they criticize Johansen, they're more worried about the production. Why is he not scoring goals? Why is this not happening? But he said something, and it was way back when Brian Boyle was on the team. And I remember it may have been Boyle's first or second game, but Johansen was talking to him on the bench and said, hey, fire the puck in there. We'll go dig it out of the boards for you, and we'll get it we'll get it back. And I remember it was right after that conversation. I think that's exactly what happened, and they scored a goal. And it's one of those things that Johansen may not have scored that goal, but he made the goal happen. And when you talk about the long orangutan arms, which was, of course, Johansen's self-description, I don't think anyone on the team has that reach. Even you mentioned Forsberg, I don't think he has the reach of Johansen. I think
you're right.
I think he has the knack for the puck.
Ekholm might, but he plays in a different position. He's not in the middle of the ice as much.
No.
Yeah.
But I'll definitely say Johansen stands alone in that category. So, maybe you don't see as many goals as you'd like, but when he's playing the way he needs to play, he's a pretty big force to be reckoned with out there.
Yeah. It's been really great to see that from Johansen so far. 3 goals and 3 assists in 7 games. So, almost a point per game player. All of the top forwards have been great this year. I pointed that out as well. Roman Josi leads the team with 9 points in 7 games. And then after that, it's Philip Forsberg, Ryan Johansen, Mikhail Granlund, Matt Duchene. That's your top 5 scorers. That's exactly what you want. Those are your top 5 highest paid players right there, except for Granlund. But that's an amazing combination to have. Every single Nashville Predators fan has been crying for that for 3 years. How long has Duchene's been on the team? 2019. 2 years now, 2+ years. That's what people have been wanting. They've been wanting those 5 players, those 4 players specifically, to contribute every day. And they're doing that. So that's a good start. And then you've got role players like Tanner Jeannot and Nick Cousins and stuff to step in and contribute as well. Colton Sissons.
Well,
go ahead.
Oh, I think the biggest thing, you've got people who are clamoring for that kind of production, but then they're still going to complain that it's not enough. And I think what we got to remember is that this is a different style of hockey that's being played. It's a more of a slow grinding game, where you're relying more on physical play up front to open up more scoring opportunities later, as opposed to like a high-powered, snipers, gang that's going to go out and start, picking off shots left and right early on, which is, it's definitely a style of hockey that teams play and have a lot of success with, but this team isn't necessarily built for that style of game. Right. So the production is going to be a little bit less than some of the teams with the big numbers, but that's kind of what you can expect from the style that's being played right now.
Yeah. So next I want to talk about Yossi Saros. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because, it's so early with goaltenders. You really need to see a lot of minutes to really get a feel. What is your thought on his start? Because in my opinion, I don't think he's played poorly. I think his special teams is still an issue. I mean, on the penalty kill, I think there's been some issues there, but I don't know how much of that is his fault. It's really hard to judge penalty kill performance. I don't think he's played poorly, but he's definitely not at the level that he was at the end of last year, where he should have been a Vezina finalist. We have to remember that he always starts slow in his career. The beginnings of his seasons are usually not as good. He gets going, but I don't think I'm not too worried about it or anything. And he's still he's not been bad. I would not say that. There've been a few goals that have been ones he shouldn't allow, but he's also had some pretty incredible saves as well. So I don't know what your thoughts are briefly on Yossi Saros' start.
Well, I'll tell you, the slow start or the traditionally slow start or however we want to look at it is definitely a real thing. And that alone tells me that this isn't really, I don't need to worry about it much at all. But, it's funny because a lot of the goals that have been scored against him have been where there's been a lot of movement with the puck right in front of him, drawing him off to one side. But then, I mean, if you look at some goals, I know there was one of the two yesterday. It's almost like he thought it was going to go wide, but it just caught the upper corner of that net. And you're like, well, he probably should have had that one. But the reality is, are you going to judge the overall, how great is a goaltender based off of the number of saves they make and how many that is, or the number of, really bad misses they had and how high that number is? And so
Yeah.
I think if you kind of look at the two, I think we're going to see that he's going to balance out more he has a lot more saves favor than, the other side of letting in some really ugly ones. That's going to happen. It's going to happen to everybody. But, as long as the vast amount of shots are stopped, I don't think there's as much to worry about. He's not letting in a ton of junk. So
just glancing at some stats really quick. I mean, goals saved. I look at basically two things. I look at goals saved above average, and I look at just overall save percentage, just at all levels. His numbers are low. They're not bottom of the league or anything. I mean, his goals saved above average, he has 1.30. I'm sorry, 1.06. That's good for 20th in the league right now. If you had, that's what I would have guessed, that he was right at average, maybe slightly below average in the league in terms of goals saved above average, and his save percentage is around the same time. I think he's like 25th or something. But that's I haven't filtered for any, some players have had one start and done well. So I think overall he's been okay. He's not been stellar. He's not his high danger save percentage is not incredible like it has been in the past. His on the penalty kill he's been kind of struggling a little bit. But overall, I'm not too concerned, and I think he still looks the part. I mean, he every night he looks just really locked into things. Maybe just a few tweaks here and there, and he'll be fine as we move on into the season. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to mention is just a brief standings watch. Usually we kind of mark Thanksgiving as the first real benchmark of the season. About once you get to Thanksgiving, you can start looking at the standings. But why not? Let's look at them anyways. The Predators are 4-4, and they're in. I just had it. Hang on. They're in 5th, so they're ahead of Chicago, Dallas, and Arizona right now in terms of the Central, and that's obviously the only reason that they're that high is because of this last week where they went 3-0. So pretty important. I think some other teams in the Central have been not performing like they should. Colorado is certainly not off to a very good start. Minnesota and St. Louis are okay. And then obviously Chicago is terrible. Arizona is bad. Nashville, to me, this is exactly where they fit in. I think this is kind of where they're going to be all year, is the middle of the road team in the Central Division and maybe a bubble team at the very end of it.
I think that's accurate. I think that's what a lot of people have said. And, you're sitting in 5th. Maybe you're back and forth between 5th and 4th. At some points, I could see the team, being up as high as 3rd, maybe spending a hot minute at 2nd. But I think you're going to kind of go back to that mean of of being in that 4th and 5th place. And it's going to come down to at the end of the season is, do you transfer into that last playoff spot? Do you hit a wild card spot? And that's, again, probably going to come down to the wire. So I think you're right. I think you're probably looking at this is about normal, is about what we can expect on the season. But there are some teams, I think Colorado especially, once they get going, they're going to do some scary things. Since it's Halloween, they'll do some spooky things. But
yeah, very spooky. I'll tell you one thing that I am not surprised about, and I'm not going to shy about taking a victory lap here because I did not understand why so many people put the Chicago Blackhawks in the top 3 or 4 of the division at the beginning of the year. They've been absolutely terrible. I think it was very predictable. They have a very old Marc-Andre Fleury. They were just trusting that Marc-Andre Fleury was going to be even the Fleury of 3 years ago with Vegas, and he's not been. And he's not getting any help because they've had some awful defensive play. They can't score any goals. They're a bad team. I don't understand why people thought they were going to be good. They're a very bad team. In addition to the horrible nature of their organization right now because of all of the information that came out about the Kyle Beach situation. Everything with the Chicago Blackhawks right now is an absolute fire. And I couldn't have predicted the second part, the information about the sexual abuse that happened. But I knew on the ice this team was going to be bad, and I'm very happy that that's actually happened because I don't understand why all these people thought they were going to be good. Doesn't make any sense.
You don't understand why people thought they were going to be good?
Yes, I don't understand why people thought they were going to be good. They did not improve their team from last year. They were bad last year.
Well, no, but it doesn't matter the relative goodness or badness of the Chicago Blackhawks. There's still going to be a large group of people who are just going to go, oh, Blackhawks, they're going to do it this year. Because it's the Chicago Blackhawks. It's not based on reason. It's not based on anything other than this is a team that's been around for a long time and they've been good before, so they'll probably be good this year.
No, you're right.
That's all that is. I mean, I get it. I don't get too worked up about it. I don't know how you look at signing that Seth Jones contract and say this is a team that's making great decisions.
Well, and they shipped off Duncan Keith to do that. They shipped off Duncan Keith to Edmonton and signed Seth Jones to this massive contract. You would have been better just sticking with the Duncan Keith contract because of what he can do on the ice. I mean, it didn't make any damn sense to me. I was very confused by that.
That's an albatross contract if I ever saw one. And I've seen a few recently. So
it's real bad. And then Arizona's bad too. That's not as much of a surprise. But so in the Central Division right now, and the Predators have they played Minnesota, they played Winnipeg.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it? That's all they've played in the Central. So they still have to. They have a lot of Central games to go. They play Chicago coming up. They've still got to play like Colorado and St. Louis, and I mean there's a long way to go here, but. I don't see any reason why the Predators couldn't be a middle of the road and then push for the bubble team at the end of the year.
I think that's reasonable. And what's funny? It's last season. I got so used to the teams that were coming. I mean, the teams in the realigned or whatever you want to call it division. Was it the Central Division presented by Discover or whatever that was?
It was the Bojangles Chicken Biscuits division of the Central variety.
Yeah, I like that. It was, and then of course the extra spicy was extra. But what I liked about that was you really got used to the teams you were playing against, and you knew what to expect. And I feel like I'm in a different universe now because I'm seeing a team and I'm like, oh, that's a team. I forgot they existed. And then I have no clue who's on the team. So when you say, we got Calgary coming up on Tuesday, I'm like, wow, who's on Calgary's team? Like, I don't even know anymore. Like, I have to do a really deep dive just to understand how the team got to where it is now.
That's true.
So when I see a team that I know from last season, like, oh, all right, I know what to expect here. But anybody else, and it's just a guessing game. And that's a struggle. Like at the game with the Islanders yesterday, it was a big struggle for me. I had to keep looking at the roster to go, who the heck is this? Where'd this guy come from? And I feel like
we got such a intense tour of the Carolina Hurricanes.
Oh Lord.
For an entire year, and I'm so tired of that team. I never want to see the Carolina Hurricanes ever again. No. And not because of how they play against the Predators, but because I'm just so tired of seeing those same names over and over and over again. But yeah, no. Speaking of, the Predators go on a 4-game road trip this coming week. This coming week they have 4 road games. Tuesday they play at Calgary, as you mentioned. The only thing I know about Calgary is Johnny Gaudreau is still on the team. And for some reason, Milan Lucic is on that team. I forgot that he was even playing.
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. They got Calgary. They got some late night games coming up. That's the other thing. We got used to last year having a lot of 7 o'clock games. Well, we got an 8 o'clock start this week. We got a 9 o'clock start. We got a 7:30 start. So they play Calgary Tuesday. They play Edmonton Wednesday. That'll be fun. And then, wait, hang on. Did I get these? Is that right? They don't play 3 straight games. I got that.
Pretty sure that third one's Friday.
Yeah. Okay, that's Friday.
Yeah.
I was like, no, they don't play back to back to back. Friday. Then Friday they play at Vancouver. That's a 9 p.m. start, and then they go to Chicago Sunday to play the Blackhawks at 6 p.m. So 4 road games. Edmonton's always good. Calgary's leading the Pacific right now. Vancouver, I don't think is very good, but I always remember that stretch where Vancouver scored like 7 power play goals against the Predators. What was that, 2019, 2020, before the shutdown? So Vancouver's always tough. And then Chicago, they're going to be motivated, obviously. They're very bad, but tough road trip. This is the kind of thing that can galvanize a team or really put them in a bad place. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
My memories of Calgary are going to be that game. Was it right before the stoppage and play with the last 10th of a second goal by Granlund to send it into overtime?
Oh,
and then Granlund scoring the goal in overtime to win the game. And I was at that game, and I was strangely at that game as a fan, and that was intense, and that's going to be, I'm going to expect that kind of fire going into that game against Calgary, even though probably both teams have changed so drastically since then roster-wise that half of them probably don't remember that game and weren't a part of it at all.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Can you hold I mean, I know I can hold a grudge for a really long time. It's really my secret superpower, but do you think the memories from that game would carry over into this one by any chance?
I think that might feel like a decade ago to both sides.
Probably right. Well, okay.
So that's going to do it for our show. You wanted to? I'm sorry. I totally forgot you had something.
Okay.
You were going to make.
Yeah, I just here's the thing, and I don't know. There's been yesterday, like I mentioned on Saturday. There were a lot of University of North Dakota fans in attendance because their team was playing in the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame game at Bridgestone Arena at 7 against Penn State. And I don't know how many people keep up with college hockey or aware of which players played in college or what, but Rocco Grimaldi is a very, very notable alumni of University of North Dakota and a very big part of their hockey team's history. There were a lot of fans at that Preds game yesterday from the University of North Dakota who more than likely were there to see Rocco Grimaldi play. And I noticed when they announced the healthy scratches, when they announced Rocco Grimaldi's name, there was a very, very, very healthy rain of boos that came down on the arena.
Interesting.
And I think, I noticed a lot of ire on Twitter from people saying that John Hines was doing Rocco Grimaldi dirty or he was doing it wrong. and I don't know. I'm not I definitely can understand where people might feel that way or where they might be frustrated by it, because how often, I mean, realistically, do you get a chance to play in front of a bunch of fans of your team from college because they're in town for an I don't know. It's definitely a unique experience. But do you think Hines was doing Rocco dirty yesterday, Alex?
No.
No? Why not?
Well, I mean, I think John Hines could care less about what college hockey game is happening afterwards. And then also, I just don't think Rocco Grimaldi is his kind of player. I mean, Rocco is fine, but look at he excelled under Laviolette. Like he was a prototypical Laviolette forechecking attacking forward that is going to shoot the daylights out of the puck all the time. He was Victor Arvidsson light is what he was. But that's not John Hines' style. He just doesn't really fit well in that. He has to be a more prolonged puck possession kind of player in the offensive zone that's going to be able to make passes and to be able to think quickly about the game and to be able to generate offense. Definitely generate offense off the rush, but also to be able to have a good two-way game. I just don't know that Rocco Grimaldi's good at that. He's not. He's a fine player. I think Rocco is fun to watch. I think he's got a lot of energy. I just don't think that he's part of John Hines' plan. They signed that contract, I think, because they needed bodies and it was a pretty cheap contract, but I do not anticipate Rocco is going to stick around after this year. And, that's fine. I mean, he's a good player. He's fun to watch, but just how it works.
Yeah, he is more of like you said, he's going to shoot the puck, but at the same time, he's quick and he would get up and be able to clean up some of those rebounds and some of those big shots that were taken from the blue line under Laviolette.
Yeah.
You don't see that as much with Hines. And you're right. I don't think the primary consideration going into the game on Saturday against the Islanders was to say, what's happening later tonight at the place where I work? What do we have coming in, and who should I play?
I'm sorry, just to clarify, you don't think that John Hines did Rocco Grimaldi?
No, not at all.
I've
noticed more than one person bringing that up on social media, and the thing is, I don't know what's my role, what's your role here in being on a podcast or covering the team. I mean, I think it's maybe there's an aspect of what we're doing that allows us to kind of bring that kind of answer to people and say, John Hines on Saturday was worried about beating the Islanders. And John Hines is going to play players that he thought were going to give them the best opportunity to do that. So if you're going to take out a winger and put Rocco Grimaldi in, who are you going to take out? Are you going to take out Tanner Jeannot?
Right.
Probably not. That's who ended up scoring 2 goals in the game. Are you going to take out Nick Cousins? Because Rocco Grimaldi can't bring that element to the game that Nick Cousins can. So when you're looking at decisions that are being made, I think it has very, very little to do with who happens to be in town for a college hockey game. And I think it has more to do with winning the game and getting 2 points.
Yeah, and moving forward, if John Hines is really in this for the long haul, he can't just displace the development and production of guys like Tanner Jeannot, Jakub Trenin, Philip Tomasino, Luke Cunnin, who's young too, by the way. Yeah. All guys who are younger than Rocco Grimaldi. Rocco Grimaldi's 28. At this point in his career, he is a $1 to $2 million player who's going to come in and put up, he scored 10 goals last year. He scored 10 goals the year before. Those are both career highs. He's never going to get much more than that. He might push to like 15 or 16. And if he was to go on a bad team, like say he went to Arizona and got top line minutes, he's probably a 20 goal scorer on a team like that, getting 18 minutes a game. But that's just not that is not the production that you need out of a team like out of a player like that who's going to get like those kind of minutes. You'd much rather give those minutes to someone like Tomasino, who is a much higher ceiling player. Even Tanner Jeannot is a much higher ceiling player. So yeah, I just think Grimaldi is basically on his way out, and he'll get some spot starts. If there's an injury, he'll play a lot. But he is what he is at this point, and I don't think they're people should be expecting too much more. So,
and I don't think it's anything intentional just to
Yeah.
keep him from the fans. It's, you said he scored 10 goals last season. 4 of those came in one game. So if you're looking at production across the season, it wasn't even as dramatic as it looks like with 10 goals because, again, you have a 4-goal game. That helps your numbers. But if you look overall, it's not as, he just had that team's number that night. I think it was the Red Wings.
He's also not very versatile. He doesn't really play on the power play. He doesn't really play on the penalty kill. He's a 10 minutes a night kind of guy that just can do kind of one thing. So,
and didn't Poyle say something about it in an interview recently about how it was not a good place to be in for him?
He did. Yeah.
I mean, I hate that because, like you said, I think he's fun to watch. I think he has a pretty decent skill set and he's good at what he does. But the things that you might require of him to do beyond that skill set, it's not in his wheelhouse. It's not something he's going to be able to do successfully and productively night in and night out. So, and I think he's a good guy. I still think they went to the game last night with UND, and I think they had a good time. And I'm sure he was a little disappointed he didn't get to play, but I'd say he's disappointed anytime he doesn't get to play. And that's what it comes down to.
Well, that's going to do it for our show today as we wrap up the Rocco Grimaldi segment. And I think this is good. And we had to cover a lot of ground. We kind of went a little longer, but that's okay. We had to cover a lot of things here. The Predators have a lot of interesting matchups coming up. I know that I'm going to be interested in watching them. And you can check out all of our hockey coverage at A2ZSportsNashville.com. And please go to ontheforecheck.com as well and read Shaun and all of his friends there. Tons of great content there. Tons of content on Twitter as well. Follow me there at AlexDoherty1. Follow Shaun at SCSOTF. We will see everyone next week and have a good weekend. See you later.